Hi, property people. Thanks for joining us today. As always, we will be sharing ideas, experiences, problems, and solutions for property people like you. Our interviews will get you to know some of the most active professionals in the industry that have achieved some pretty impressive stuff. Hearing about their successes, failures, strategies, and insights, we really hope you enjoy. So today I was joined by Craig Sullivan, aka the Property Apprentice, as he goes by on his Instagram handle, which is where we met. We've since done business together. He's my letting agent. He himself is a HMO letting agent, expert with the student sector in that area in Kent. He's a landlord himself. He's got over 20 properties. He bought his first property at auction. He was on Homes Under the Hammer. And if you follow him on socials, he is a larger than life character, full of energy, very, very open about everything that he does. And I think that's a large attraction to, the following that he's got. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. As always, please do hit the like button, subscribe, comment, leave us a review. The more traction this gets, the more places we go together. Hope you enjoy. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Property People. Today, I am joined by Craig Sullivan, a.k.a. the Property Apprentice, a.k.a. Crypto Craig. I'm not sure we'll have time to get into all of that, but I met Craig via Instagram, a common trend of some recent guests that I've had. Craig and I, though, are living proof that through the powers of social media, you can get business done. I started following Craig when I was on the hunt for HMOs. I was expanding my HMO portfolio, and I came across Craig, and I was absolutely taken back by and fascinated by his openness and his energy. And he happened to be in an area which was close to where I live, and I ended up investing there. And we've worked together since. So Craig is a student letting agent, landlord and investor, and thriving in the Insta game. It's great to have him on. Thank you very much for joining us today. How are you today, Craig?
Sam, thank you very much. Great to be here. Yeah, no, I'm absolutely buzzing, and raring to go, mate. As per, raring.
Good. You're always full of beans, which is what everybody loves when they follow you on Instagram and get to know you a little bit. Which I'm hoping that this is going to be much of the same. But before we go into all the property stuff, and I always like to start at the very, very, very beginning. At school, what kind of person were you at school?
Right, so school. Not many people know this, although I've spoken about it before. Basically, I went to the worst school in England, Sam. In terms
Wow.
of in terms of like secondary school, basically my mum and dad up stick from London, and they moved to Thanet, which is like a seaside town. And obviously, it was like during that transition, like where I'm going into next year, and they didn't really do much research into schools and stuff like that. So they just thought, yeah, do you know what? You'll be all right wherever you go. And lo and behold, the only place for me was at the worst school in England. And just to give you like a mindset of what that's like is like, and I was there from year 7 to year 9. It's like basically any academia. You're not there to learn. You're not really there to. That's just not in your way of life. It's all about like being the biggest, the hardest. It's all about the name, and it was definitely something that I was exposed to and shocked by, but you just get through it. And so what was I like at that time? I was very much a bit of a cheeky guy, like well into my sports, into like girls and just having fun with the lads. And that was it really. While I was there, obviously I had my clique, they had their head screwed on, but you were always surrounded by like poverty, crime, violence, drugs. Like it was that environment, and you kind of knew. Yeah, and like I said, and the sad thing was like the role models that you used to look up to were like in year 11s, and that were like the hardest kids in school. And these guys are to today, I still hear about some people, and they're like full blown gangsters, mate. Like it's like, yeah, it's up there. And that's the sad thing. Is like people all around me would look up to him and go, oh yeah, there's so and so. Oh, he's, do you know what I mean? It was one of
Yeah,
those things.
yeah,
But I think, but yeah, that was a million miles ago. So yeah, a million miles away sort of compared to where I am now. But yeah, that was kind of the mindset as yeah. Where was I? About 13 to 15 to 16 growing up. That was yeah. That was it. But my dad obviously recognised that, because obviously he was dropping me off, and where that school was, it was just outside like a council estate. So he was dropping me off to like my friends' houses, and he would obviously see it. And I'd get into trouble at school. And I think my mum and dad had a chat, and like my dad was like, "No, weekends you're coming with me. You're coming on my sites. You're coming on my projects. Even if you do little DIY jobs at home, I want you to, yeah." Because he honestly felt that education wasn't going to be the route for me. Obviously, I flipped that, and I went on to do a degree and so on and so forth. But at that time, I think he got concerned and my mum got concerned because of that environment. And yeah, that's kind of what I was done.
Jesus, I didn't expect that answer, to be fair.
Yeah.
So you kept your head down. You weren't necessarily hugely academic, but you weren't running with the hardest kids in school. And fortunately, your dad had said, you know what, weekends, your free time, you're not going to be running with those guys. You're going to come with me. I'm going to show you kind of the way life really works and what hard graft is. And that's, I think, what we see in you today.
100%, mate. And this is it. Like you, I mean, and people say you're a product of your environment, right? And so I was surrounded by, like I said, these guys. And not all my friends have gone on to do like bad things. Don't get me wrong. Some of them are doing fantastically well and got some honest careers and stuff like that. But I must say, at that time, at a school like that, obviously coming from another school, I just noticed the difference straight away, and it was just like, whoa, this is rough. This is very rough. Yeah. But
And tell me, your dad. So when he was taking you on site, so there's an element of property in there. What was he getting up to on weekend? What was his day job?
yes, so basically, my dad was like had a traditional property development mindset. He would buy a house, renovate it, sell it on, move on bigger, and repeat the process. He was also a builder by trade, so he done other jobs on sites and stuff like that. So he would pick up things that people would ask him to do and think, oh, that would be nice, and kind of, yeah, I was there and I was exposed to that. And at that time, I was I was helping him out. I'd be doing like material deliveries. I'd be doing basics in painting, decorating, just roofing, guttering, you name it. I was across it. Just up ladders, on scaffolding. I was doing everything.
From what age? From what age did he first take you kind of on a? As my dad used to do similar, he's like called them business trips. What was the first day like? What was the earliest that you got onto working with your dad or following him around?
So I was really excited, actually. I think it was the youngest I was. I think it was kind of, he'd done it now and again when my mum was busy. He'd go, right, when you're on the age of 13, you can come. And I was buzzing. But yeah, as obviously I got older throughout my teenage years, it got more and more hands-on. I'd get more and more stuff done. So I'd say, yeah, the youngest time was, I'd say around about the 15 mark. Yeah, it was like where I was proper like, right, this is it, 6 a.m, you're up, come on, let's go. I'm like, all right, let's go. Yeah, so yeah, about then.
Very good. And then you, I mean, one thing that you call yourself the property apprentice, and on your Insta profile picture, it's you holding a auction card, and you're on Homes Under the Hammer. I mean, how did you go from being kind of an apprentice to your dad to suddenly being on Homes Under the Hammer?
Yeah, so I love telling this bit. So basically, when I basically moved out of Thanet and I came to university here, I saw a big gap in the market for high-end student accommodation. My accommodation here, Sam, was absolutely diabolical. Like, I've said it again and I'll say it before, it was like walking into a charity shop. I walked into the lounge and it was like the landlord just kitted it out with a charity shop. It was dated, horrible, had no character, had no life to it. It was soulless. It was nasty. And so I thought, okay. And as I went to friends' houses, I noticed the same similar pattern. And also the service was really bad as well. Like the landlords, it was really, really bad. So that kind of opened my eyes. And obviously I saw my dad accumulate wealth through the property game. I saw a gap in the market in terms of there's rundown properties, students are always complaining. So that's kind of planted the seed. I thought, okay, this is a big opportunity here. And so, yeah, I just knuckled down. I did some numbers. I realized what I was paying. Had a look at, I remember a newspaper come through the door. So I had a look at the property section. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I know where that house is. I was looking at the prices. Then I was like, Dad, look, this is what we're paying. And there's 4 of us living in this house. This is how much it's cost. And he was like, actually, that's pretty good yields. That's pretty good returns. So I was like, all right, cool. But he was obviously very busy doing his own thing. He's building. He actually migrated to Ireland. When I went to university, my mum and my dad went to Ireland. He wanted to set up like a building company over there. He bought a house over there. So he basically upsticked. So I kind of knew, okay, right, if my dad's going to take me seriously, I need to start saving some money. So that's when I thought, right, what do I need to do to buy a house? I need to get at the time I thought, oh, I'll get a 10% deposit because I was a first time buyer. Little did I know about the buy-to-let mortgages. You have to put a minimum of 25% down, but that was all part of the process. So I thought, I need, at the time, house prices around here are like 100 grand. So I thought, right, I need 10 grand and then I've got a house. So what do I need? I need to graft, I need to hustle, I need to get this money in. So basically around my university degree, I worked at a nightclub over the weekend. And then I also done shifts at Ted Baker as well, like in the evening, working at Blue Water, as well as hustling. So I would buy like shirts and stuff like that, which were really like nice fitting, and I would flog those. So I had like 3 kind of streams of income, and lo and behold, I got to my 10 grand limit, and that was obviously using savings as well that I had, as well as my student loan, which I probably shouldn't have done, but it's there, so I used it. And I spoke to my dad about it in terms of I want to do this, and an option came up at auction. Really, like literally packet maths, just run it past him on the phone. Obviously, he was on a site, I think, and he was like, yeah, Craig, right, yeah, let's do it. Thinking that it wouldn't happen. And lo and behold, I was literally en route to the auction, Sam. And I rang my dad. I was like, Dad, just let you know I'm en route to the auction. He was like, whoa. What are you talking about? you know that house I said that we're going to buy, we're going to sell it to a student let. Well, today's the day. I've got my deposit. I just need you to fund the rest, which you said you would. So that was the plan. My dad would fund the rest, and so that's what happened. I literally rocked up, and that photo that you saw on my Insta, that was me registering, and I basically held it up and won. And but it's so funny because my dad was panicking. He was like, Craig, whatever you do not go over £120,000. And when I rung him, and when I rung, I was like, Dad, we've won it. And he was like, oh God, how much did you pay for it? I said, oh Dad, we got it for 140. He went, what? And I was like, no, just joking. We got it for 116, which at the time was like at the top of the price, because that was at 2008. That was literally on the cusp of the craziness which went on after that. But at the time, we were just right. We need a house. This is it. So that was when I bought it. That was at auction. That was the card. And then my dad came over with my mum, and literally we spent 5 weeks, 6 weeks in there renovating it, like literally day and night. And that really exposed me to the HMO renovation side of things, So whereas before I was working on sites, on exterior, like on big developments, this was really honed me in on, this is what we need to do to convert a residential house into a HMO. And it was fun. Like, it was obviously me, my mum, my dad, all stuck in, and we got it done. But I learned so much on that project. And that was kind of the first one. Obviously, it was nothing compared to what the HMOs are now. This was back in 2008, like I said, so it's very basic, but it was head and shoulders above the competition at the time. And then that was the start. Literally, that was the start. And then when I moved in, we had parties, we had gatherings. People would come in and be like, oh my God, your house is really nice. Who's the landlord? And I'd be like, oh, it's my dad. And that kind of, and then it escalated from there.
And so the first one that you bought, £116,000. You did all the work yourself, and I think that that's one of the things that I admire about you is that you're very, very hands-on. You're able to pretty much do the whole HMO yourself with the help of some trusted hands that you you sometimes document as well. But in terms of the 5-6 weeks that you had your mum and dad to help you out with stuff, how much did you spend on that HMO in terms of cash?
So cash wise, Jesus, I think it was somewhere in the region of about £6,000, something like that, and that includes
Wow,
furniture. Yeah,
that is
so
incredible.
yeah, so it was, yeah, because like I said, with the labour, that like labour takes up a big chunk of the renovation budget. It was just materials, and yeah, and obviously, yeah, when you've got dad as a builder, it massively helps.
And you got 4 bedrooms out of it?
Got 4 bedrooms out of it. Yes, it was a 3 bedroom terrace originally, and basically downstairs there was a 2 reception rooms, so we converted one of those into another bedroom. Yeah.
And how much was each room renting out for back in 2008?
Or I think about 360 360, yeah, 360 a month. Yeah.
So just shut. Okay, so you're looking at kind of 1,500-1,600 a month rental
Yeah,
income,
rental.
which
Yeah.
which you times that by 12, you're getting well over 10% yield on that.
Yeah.
And in a property in London, Southeast England, where kind of supply and demand, that's a really, really good return. And how much is that property worth now?
So that property, we know this for sure because my mum's just sold it. So basically, what happened was I only
Ah,
put 10% in. My dad put the rest in. So I had like 10% of the property, and my dad paid the rest. So everything was in his name, which meant that on my next one, I could buy on the first time
yeah.
mortgage stuff like that. But anyway, yeah. So to answer your question, how much is it worth now? So my mum and dad have sold that house because we put it on the market for 235,000.
Wow. So it's doubled in 10 years, which is what
Yeah,
everybody always says, right? Property
exactly.
values, they double every 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the point. Like I bought at the worst possible time as well. And it just shows you if you hold on strong and yeah, it's going up. It's a great asset.
So with the HMO thing, because I would consider you to be an HMO expert. Simply, I mean, how your letting agent? How many properties do you manage? And
So
with
we manage 75 now.
75. So you understand that space really, really well. And you decided to go down the student letting market specifically. Now, just by knowing the area myself slightly, it's got a university campus there, so it kind of lends itself well to that. But have you ever thought about diversifying into professional lets?
Yes, the thought has crossed my mind, but it's funny because there's people that have been in the professional space and they've met me and they've come over to students and they're just like, God, why didn't we do this before? It's so much easier because, like, without being or sounding rude, Gillingham is a low income area. So, I mean, if you go into the high street, there's not much going on. It really needs the council or the government even to put a grant in, really spruce this area up just to attract that nicer clientele. Because at the moment, there's not much in Gillingham, and the kind of professionals that I've seen and from what my clients have told me as well is like tradesmen, maybe hospital workers if you go that way. But in terms of Lower Gillingham, which is where the uni's at, like the university student HMO strategy is like the sweet spot for this area, given the clientele and the other strategies that you can venture into. So that's kind of why I've stuck to my guns on it. I have experimented it with the hospital side of things. That's worked very well. But that was just off the cuff. That was so random. Basically, I had 12 Filipino nurses walk into my office and say, "Look, we need accommodation." And just so by luck, I had 3 houses that were empty at that time because we just took on a landlord. And I called her up and I said, "Look, I know it's a slight change, slight curveball, but I've got free student potential to rent out your 3 houses with professionals." And yeah, she was like, absolutely, let's do it, because she didn't have to wait until September. She could just get them in, like, I think this was about June time. So she was like, yeah, do it. and it worked well. But what my learnings from that is again, it's quite bitty. So obviously with professionals, they've got different ambitions, like they've got different life goals. They might meet someone, they might leave early, and so it was very bitty in terms of, whereas students, their goals are exactly the same. They're coming to an area, they're getting a degree, and then they move all together, so they move as a group. Whereas I think professionals are like individual, very individual, so it's a little bit, well, it's a lot more bitty. So yeah, that was kind of my takings from it.
The one of the things that I love about the student cycle is that it's predictable
Yeah,
revenue. So you kind of know
exactly.
what you're doing every single year. Now the biggest pain, because I've got a few student HMOs dotted around the country, is this whole COVID thing that's been happening recently. And we don't know if students are going to come back. I mean, last year it was all up in the air. And how do you see that now changing, coming up to September? What have you noticed? Are things improving? I mean, for some of my other ones, I know in the West Midlands, they're literally hoping that, like, through the clearing system,
Mm.
almost towards the end of this summer, that they're going to have an influx of inquiries, because right now there's still a lot of people sitting on the fence and the demand's just not quite where it used to be. And I think about a lot of student letting landlords that are probably suffering, but I'm also thinking of these huge student blocks that have been popping up all over the country that are probably going to be suffering as well. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
so with your ear to the ground on this stuff, what have you been noticing the most?
Yeah, so I literally sent out an update to all my landlords, because usually on a typical annual cycle, you'd be literally like 90 to 95% rented out by now. Like any properties that would be empty would be like red flag. Now it's kind of okay, but everything's changed because of COVID. Everything's been delayed, and the whole schedule and system is up in the air. So obviously we've remained completely open during COVID, and obviously we've seen our KPIs, which we manage right across our website, across inquiries, and also across social media, and they dropped. Obviously they completely dropped, and we thought, oh, okay, this was about January time, and I really started to worry. But as time has got on, again, we remained open. We remained consistent with our marketing, again, drilling it home to people that, look, a private accommodation is better suited for students than halls. And obviously COVID, I think, helped with that, because one of the big things people come to realize is that, wow, like trying to control a bubble of 250 students under one roof, like touching elevators, and it's scary. It's a scary, you can't physically can't do that. Whereas if you move into a house with, say, like 4 or 5 of you that you trust, that you trust them and you know where they are, then that's a lot more manageable. So I think that helped, and a lot of parents saw that as well. A lot of the parents were like, oh, okay, no, we understand that and we see that. So what I do believe, though, is that, yeah, things have had a knock-on effect, and a lot of students and their parents have said, look, maybe you should hold off securing a tenancy until the universities actually confirm what's going on, because, and rightly so. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to commit to a tenancy when I could be studying online from
Yeah,
home.
totally
Do you know
makes
what I
sense.
mean? It totally makes sense, and then that's where we come stuck, is because the viewings were picking up. They loved the houses. They saw the benefits. It was just getting that final commitment as a deposit to go, okay, right. And they were just like, oh, but the unis haven't confirmed. But obviously we've got their details. As soon as the unis do, we're straight on it. But saying that, we've seen, like, the last month has been the best month so far. So I think as we start to roll out, as the vaccinations start rolling out, as the economy starts to open, we're definitely going to see more confidence, and hopefully parents and students will think, do you know what, rather than staying home, I think moving in with a few friends is going to be beneficial. But one pattern as well, again, adding to that, is because the universities have closed down, the social aspect has basically stopped. A lot of
Yeah.
students haven't really made that many friends, and so where we used to have tons of group inquiries coming in this time of year, it's now changed, where we've had loads of individuals applying loads. So again, it's telling the landlords, look, this is the market landscape because of what's happened. We're going to have to take these individuals and house them. Otherwise, you're going to run the risk of your property being empty. Because obviously before they were like, no, we want groups. And I'm just like, well, that's not there now. Like that's kind of not there now. Don't get me wrong, we are still getting groups, but nowhere near on the scale as we were. It's
So
so much.
in terms of occupancy, you mentioned kind of at this stage of the year, you'd probably be at 95% plus. I mean, where do you think we are now currently?
So we've rented out. So we've probably got about 25% left to fill.
So about 75% full. So I mean that
Yeah,
is a significant drop. And they were supposed to release all the like the social distancing regulations. I think June 21st. They kicked it to
that's right.
July 21st. And every
Yeah,
time they do that, that really hurts us. So
exactly.
hopefully,
19th of July. Exactly. Yeah, I'm counting the
19th
days.
is it?
Yeah, 19th. Yeah, exactly that. But yeah.
For all the student HMO landlords out there, that's the date we were looking for.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah,
So
going back to sorry, Sam,
yeah.
touching on that point you said mentioned about the halls also feeling it 100%. Like I've looked recently how they're doing here, speaking to staff. Like I know there's a subway down there. I regularly go in there. Every time I've gone there, it's been dead. Like the whole usually that place is buzzing with students, like buzzing. It's like a ghost town. And I saw the owner in there, and he was saying me, yeah, like footfall is down, everything's down. And to the point where I thought, well, what are these halls doing? How are they making money? And you know what I saw? They're actually advertising the rooms on Airbnb to fill the rooms. That's how dire it is
Wow.
for the halls. Yeah. So so yeah, the halls I think are going to have a very very tough
I
12
mean,
months.
talking about the halls, I remember when I was looking at some HMOs in some university towns, there was a lot of these student halls going up. And I was having discussions with a number of people, and everyone had a slightly different opinion. And I'd say it was almost about 50-50. Some people said, well, the student halls, when they finally pop up, it's going to be the death of all these little landlords. Everything's going to be institutionalized. They're trying to get rid of the little landlord. And then the other half was saying, no, you know what? These student halls, they're only good for a year or so. Most people don't actually want to live in them. And actually, everybody prefers to live in a little house because they're 18 years old. They want to kind of grow up and they want to kind of live in a house share with their friends, their close friends, and have a little bit more privacy, a little bit more comfort, especially in the levels of hygiene that they might be with their peers.
Mm.
So actually, everyone's going to want to live. Actually, the demand for those small houses will always be really, really high. And over the years, I've found that is actually the case. Although that these student housing supply has increased because of these big blocks and all the facilities. Some of them have got cinema rooms and some of them have got games rooms, and you can't necessarily get that in a mid-terraced house. But I think the close community and friendship that you've got from hanging out with 3-4 friends living in the same house. I remember when I was at university and I went into the halls for the first year. Everybody, all of my peers, couldn't wait to get out of them, and they wanted to go into a house. And okay, those student halls aren't quite as funky as what you get today, but I still think the sentiment's the same. And so far, pre-COVID at least, these terraced houses that have turned into kind of all ensuite bathroom, really nice. You're sitting in one right now, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you just said that you can't get a cinema room in a terraced house. Well, this one's got one, baby.
Well, there you go. How did you? What is that in the basement or?
That's in the basement. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because the plan was to convert it into a bedroom, but the HMO inspector said no. It's too cramped. So I was like, fine. What can I do with it to really make it pop down there? And I thought, yeah, cinema room. So yeah, I'll be releasing some snaps on that later. But yeah.
I've got one in Gillingham as well myself, where there was a basement space and we had it tanked to make sure that we could have some sort of communal living space, cinema room, because it's quite cool. You got the low ceiling. It lends itself well to that kind of space.
That vibe. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I think that from my experience, the student blocks have a place in the market. I think always these things take up market share, but they don't necessarily take over and dominate. Whether you're
Yeah.
talking about online agents and high street agents, whether you're talking about student blocks, and always.
Yeah. And I just wanted to, yeah, that point that you touched on about the 50-50 camp. I definitely think that the 50% that said, oh yeah, the halls are going to take over, are basically, from my experience, are the landlords that have had stock for a long period of time. And they're a bit old school in their approach, and they're just like, they see these funky new halls and they just think, oh my God, how am I going to compete with that? Whereas the landlords like yourself, that we're not afraid to renovate our properties highly because we're confident in our product to attract the better tenants. They're the ones that, yeah, will reap benefits and dividends long term, because that's how it should be. And like you said, trying to control people, like 250 people in one dwelling, all like setting off fire alarms, like smoking weed, stealing your food. One guy, it was so funny, Sam. Some guy walked into my office wanting a house, and I asked him, "Oh, so how's halls?" And he said, "Oh, it's awful." He goes, "There was a fire in the kitchen yesterday." And I went, "What?" And he got up his phone on his Snapchat account, and he was doing a selfie, and the kitchen was in flames. And I was like, Jesus Christ, it's like chaos down there by the sounds of it. But that's it. That's it. Everyone thinks it's, oh my God, it's this elite living scenario. It's far from that.
And
Far
you know
from
what?
that.
And the rooms are usually tiny and they're
Yeah.
usually overpriced as well. So, I mean, like, we're a bit biased possibly that we're hating on them right now. But the reality is, as I said, everything's got a place. And I think
Yeah.
for first year students that are traveling in, they don't have anywhere to go. They're a really good place to go and be in the melting pot where you get to meet all kinds of people. But after that first year's over, I don't know many people that really, really want to stick with it. So, and you're absolutely bang on. It's about creating a really good product. So whichever end of the market that you're in, it's about having the best in that range. So even if you want to have let's say I guess a 4 or 5 bedroom HMO with no ensuite, which is less and less likely. Just make sure it's priced accordingly and it's in the best condition. So for those people that really have tight budgets, you're going to be the one that when they want to go for that kind of thing, they're going to pick your one over anything else. And I think that goes without saying.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd second that as well. Like just try and be the best of what you can do, and have confidence in your products. Yeah. Know your tenant, know their demands, and meet it to the best of your ability.
What about things like HMO regulations? Because I remember I started out as an estate agent in 2001, and the amount of regulation that has come into the letting game has increased significantly. I always thought it was a really, really good business. I still do, but I know that a lot of old-fashioned, or from those days, those guys, they wanted to leave the market. Probably a little bit like these older landlords are like, oh, it's just too much hassle. These regulations are really, really prohibitive to anybody that wants to run a relaxed portfolio. So how do you feel about regulations in HMOs? And do you think that they're well placed, or do you think they're a bit OTT? And how do you keep on top of them? Because they're constant, aren't they?
It's absolutely crazy. Like it seems like every 6 months to a year, there's a new regulation that's basically slapped on us that yes, you have to do that. And obviously, with more regulation comes more cost,
Exactly.
which then reduces profit, and then unfortunately that can reduce standards. So, but yeah, I think it's one of them. Like there's landlords out there doing a fantastic job. I think the minority of landlords, and unfortunately there are some out there, do a terrible job. And they know it, and they're the ones that really should be getting clamped down on. I know that the government are giving the local councils more powers. So recently I found out that the local councils now have the power to basically fine a landlord, and they get 100% of that fine. Whereas before, I think it went into like a general pot. So there wasn't real motivation for the enforcers to really do anything. But now it's like, okay, well, we need money to regenerate the high street. We need it. So, okay, so where are we going to get that? So in some ways, though, that means that landlords are a target. And I just hope that they see it as the bad landlords are the target, for sure. But yeah, legislation, again, if of course, it's welcomed if it's needed. I understand about all the fire eggs, totally get that. There's a fire at Elephant and Castle, there's Glenfell. Obviously, fires are absolutely devastating, they kill people, so I totally get that. But yeah, it's a tough one as a landlord, and again working with landlords, it's tough to see, because yeah, if you had a graph and you had a time at the bottom and the amount of legislation, it would be like that. It would be so high.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things, and yet somehow these rogue landlords fall below the radar. They're still operating. You still see like 20 beds, 20 people in one. I see notifications like 20 people in one house in London. But again, it's all about the what the government's powers that they give out. And another thing that they can do now is give rent returns back, can't they? So the landlord has to get demanded. If you're caught with an illegal HMO, then you as a landlord have to pay back all of those gains that you've got back to your tenants. So yeah, hopefully that deters it. But again, there's always some people, unfortunately, that fall below under the radar on these things.
Yeah, I've noticed that it does get more and more every year, but having a good letting agent that is on top of it, that
Yes,
can inform you about what's going on. The most annoying part of it as from a landlord's point of view is obviously the cost every time you're told that you need to do this, that, or the other. But that's why I think, I mean, what you do is you try to take on old properties similar to myself. You renovate them to a really, really, really good standard, so they tick, all the boxes, and they'll probably last at least 5 years. And only with small minor tweaks. You get people like building control in to make sure that all the fire safety, smoke alarms, everything's in place. And perhaps that helps. But as you say, if the margins get more and more squeezed, at the end of the day, less and less landlords are going to be wanting to do that. Then the supply goes down, the cost goes up for the tenants, and landlords are going to have to find something else to do. But you didn't you invest in some place in Wolverhampton once or something?
Wolverhampton?
Was
No,
it you know what? There was something that like, because do you ever invest in single lets?
no.
So only HMOs.
Only HMOs. Yeah, I've just bought one in Rochester, which I'm planning. I'm 50-50 on it. It's whether to convert it to a 4-bed HMO or do a buy to let. But that's the only one. But yeah, other than that, I'm literally just HMOs. Yeah.
And what's the is the main reason why you don't want to do single lets because of the lower return effectively?
Exactly that. Like, I'm in it to make as much money as possible. For me, my strategy is, and it's very simple, is buy properties that need work done to them at key locations, buy them at good prices, add value cost effectively. And then once you've done that, then you rent them out on a per room basis, which gives you the maximum return. And then once you've got those three boxes ticked, then you refinance and repeat. Get your money out, keep going, get your money, keep going. And that's kind of been my model. Obviously, with the buy to let model, you won't be getting the return back, and usually the valuation isn't as good as a licensed HMO.
For some reason, I don't know why I had it that you'd bought a single let out in Wolverhampton or something, somewhere in the West Midlands or something along those lines.
No.
Something crazy like that. But have you ever thought about investing outside of your area? Because some people like I've got stuff here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah.
You're, from what I know, relatively focused. That's why I thought, I'm sure a while ago you mentioned something about investing something in the West Midlands. But is it better to focus on one specific area?
So for me, yeah, like I said, I'm very focused on one area, and that's simply because like I can keep a close eye on things. It's a little bit less stressful, and you've got more control, in my opinion. I know we spoke before this podcast about me looking to delegate a lot more, and that's the thing. So obviously, I've got an agency, and it all ties up well, and the market inside out, and there's so many advantages of staying local. Is you can act quick, all the agents, you know a lot of the tradesmen that are local. Everyone can act super quick, and agents like that, because what separates a good landlord from a great landlord, or an okay landlord from a great landlord, is that straight away if there's a problem, you get in there, nip it in the bud, tenants are happy, you're happy, because ultimately the landlord knows that it's done, and I'm happy because I know that I've done a good job on it. So yeah, I think local's got so many advantages. But yeah, to your point about have I thought about digressing into another area? Absolutely, because Gillingham's gone like through the roof, like in terms of property prices. So
Yeah.
and the rent's kind of holding, it's creeping up, but it's nowhere near as the house prices going up. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about maybe going further afield and basically replicating what I'm doing here in another uni town.
Well, do let us know wherever you go, because it seems to work wherever you go,
Yeah, I will
whatever you
do.
do.
Yes.
And you know, this new way of investing for you, which I've noticed with investors, taking on investors on board, which has been
Yes.
happening over the last few years. How's that all going for you? Are you enjoying the experience? Is it full of headaches? As some people say, you know, the more people, more headaches. You know, some people love it and have thrived off it, because the more leverage you've got, the faster you can grow. So how have
Yeah.
you been managing that whole process, and how have you been finding it?
Sure. So I really like the JV route. I mean, so basically, the reason why I started the JV, Sam, was because obviously I sourced the property for an investor, and I sourced it to him so cheap. I sourced him a property, a 4-bedroom HMO. In my opinion, it's the best 4-bedroom HMO in Gillingham. Not biased at all. And I put my heart and soul into it, as you would. And literally, it's an asset that's gone up in value. He's got all of his money out on it, and it's
Wow.
generating him roughly about what 18, maybe 20 grand a year. And I sold it to him for 5 grand, and I just felt shortchanged. I thought, Jesus Christ, if I had the money, obviously I'd have done it, but I didn't, so I sourced it. So I thought there's got to be another way. So basically, what I did was I picked up the phone, I spoke to people on my phone about it, and just said, look, I'll find the properties, I'll renovate the properties, I'll handle the tenancy, I'll do the vetting, I'll handle everything. All I need is the cash. And we're 50-50 on the asset. And you get the security because you get paid back first. So obviously you've put in the cash, but once that property's up and running, all the rent, all the profit goes to you until you're paid off. So you know that it's in my best interest to make sure that this HMO is good. It's a cash machine. Otherwise, I don't get a penny out of it. So yeah, that was kind of the message. And yeah, I had so many people reach out to me that I filtered through, met with people at my office, and basically I was crystal clear. I said, look, this is the way I do things. This is like the agency. This is how we do things, and this is kind of the brand and the decor. And as long as you're happy for me to run this ship the way I want to run it, you fund it, we're good. And then that way there's a clear outline of what you're responsible for, and what I'm responsible for. And to be fair, I've got some fantastic JVs who are like really good friends now. And yeah, I've got Victor, Michelle, Sophie, Sam and Sam. So yeah, I've got 5 JVs, and between the 5 of us, we've probably done about 8 projects, and this is all since
Wow.
like 2019. So
You've
yeah.
got this target. You're quite good at goal setting, annual basis. I know you're always trying to, you know, make 20% gains at the very least
Yeah.
on everything that you do. And you've got this new target of 50 properties by 50 years old.
Yes, exactly
And
that. Yeah,
and how old are you now, may I ask?
I'm 33.
And how many properties do you have so far?
22.
22. So you're nearly halfway there, and
Yeah,
you've got another 20 years. So really, actually, if you just pretty much pick up another one and a bit every year over the next,
yeah,
you
yeah,
should be
exactly.
able to make it.
Should be able to. Yes, exactly.
But
Touch wood.
how many did you pick up last year? Because 2020 was a busy year for you. It was
2020 was
quiet for
massive.
many.
Yeah, so 7 houses last year. What 1.6 million pounds worth? Yeah.
7 properties in a 12-month period. I
Yeah.
mean, you never mind 50 years old. If you go at that rate, you'd be done in 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah, well, it was all about the opportunities. Like I saw what 2008 done like firsthand. I saw the values. I was like, oh god. But to be fair, at that time we were holding anyway. We weren't going to flip it or anything like that. So I saw what happened with Brexit. The announcement of Brexit, there was a big sharp in product, and then when COVID come along, it was just perfect timing, because obviously I'd done a few refinances. I had a bit of a war chest to play with. I had the JV stuff going on, and then bang, COVID hit, and I just thought, wow, like this is going to be bad, but bad means good for buying. So I literally made phone calls, put everything into it, and I just bought as much as I could and offered cheeky as I could, and managed to get 7 properties. And obviously we've seen a rebound since then, and it's just like, yeah, when you just think, yes. Like, yes.
No, the property
And
prices have done great in Gillingham. Absolutely.
yeah. So yeah, no, it was a busy year. I probably overstretched myself, but you've got to come out your comfort zones. You've got to make it work. And like I said, it meant like putting the more lavish stuff on hold. Obviously we can't go on holiday, so that's helped. But yeah, it's just making those little mini sacrifices to get ahead and get where you want to be.
And with the with everything that you're juggling, from doing all of these refurbs to managing your letting agent, 75 properties. I mean, 75 properties with 5 bedrooms on average each. That's hundreds of HMO rooms and individual tenants that you've got to take care of. And then being on your socials as well, because you are persistent. I mean, I've known you for a number of years, and there's barely a day that goes by that we don't hear from you in some way, shape, or form. You've been incredibly consistent. One of the questions that I had in my mind, because you are so open and honest and transparent about everything that you do, and quite candid, is, do you think that being an open book on places like socials can sometimes do harm to an individual or a business?
For me, it hasn't done any harm. I would say it's done great in terms of like, people, I think, like that. They are that rawness. They get to know you. They build that relationship over time, and then they kind of, when you put something out there like the JV stuff, and this is the thing, like, if you're someone of value, people are always watching, and if you're someone of value, they're going to watch you, they're going to like you, they're going to follow you. Do you know what I mean? And that's why like on my Instagram, I think I've gone back to like project 9, I think, and now I'm on 22. But from that point onwards, I've just documented. That's it. I've just documented exactly how it is, just showing you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think a lot of people appreciate it and follow it and connect with it, and that's the key. But in terms of harm, I can't say. I think TikTok's, there's a lot of haters on TikTok towards landlords.
Really?
Oh, no, mate, because it's quite a younger skewing like platform, and so like I remember I put one on like where I think I was buy a laptop, and I opened it slowly, and it was like checking to see if your tenants have paid on time. And it got like 500,000 views. And mate, the comments on there, like, oh, your landlord parasites, da 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 da. And I was just like, wow, like this is deep. Like I wasn't expecting that, but then I realized obviously it's a young audience, and when I like replied to them, and to be fair, a lot of them I didn't have to reply. Other people were jumping in, going, no, landlords are good, like as long as you're good landlord. So that was nice, but yeah, that was kind of the only kind of harm, I'd say, from a social.
But they say no, what is it? No press is bad press or something. So as long as people are talking about you in some way, shape, or form, that's always a good thing. And I mean, I do agree. I think sometimes the real value is being genuine, authentic, open, and honest. And at the end of the day, you can't please all people all the time. So by being yourself, by being open, you are actually going to turn on a lot of people, and you're going to attract a lot of people. At the same time, you're probably going to get some haters. And then I don't know if you follow all this self-help, self-motivation. They always say, that once you get the haters, that's when you know you're doing well. So it's kind of like, so I guess you're winning with that. And then, so you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram. What other socials are you kind of focusing on?
I'd say those are the main, like, I'd say Instagram's the main one. TikTok was kind of, I just wanted to throw it out there because it was kind of my vibe. Because, you know, I like to like have a laugh, put some tunes out there, have a good time. So that kind of suited my vibe. So I experimented on that. But yeah, I'd say Instagram and Twitter, but yeah, mainly those two.
And so you're good with numbers, you're good with investors, you're good with making money, you're good with all of these things. I'm gonna ask you about crypto, Craig,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because you know there's something that you mentioned it very very early on, which is the multiple streams of income. You know,
Yeah.
from a very young age you were always looking at different diversifying what you were doing, and you're doing that as well at the moment, whether you're getting landlord income, whether you're getting investors to help leverage that, or whether you're getting your own property management income as well. So now, and a lot of people are investing in stocks and shares and this and that and the other. And you have spotted cryptos as another form of income potentially. I mean, I've invested into them as well, and I've had very brief chats with you about it. But certainly, I'm interested in that space. What is it about the crypto space that you really really like?
Yeah. So I've been watching crypto for about, say, 18 months, and I've just seen it going up and up and up and up and up. And I thought, oh, shall I get in? Shall I not? Shall I get in? And it wasn't until Sienna was born, literally on the night Danielle went into labor, I was like, I think she was like, oh, like my I've, yeah, I think she's coming. I was like, nah, no, because we heard of, like, was it Brandon Hicks? I forgot what he's called. Braxton Hicks.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah.
Contractions. Yeah, Braxton Hicks, that's it. Um, and I thought, oh, it's just Braxton Hicks, and I carried on like looking into it, and she's like, no, I think it's time. So I was like, oh my god. So while she's in the hospital, I was just thought, oh, okay, I'll invest a couple of grand, and the whole premise behind it was, I'll invest our holiday budget, because I don't think we're going away this year. I'll invest our holiday budget in, and then at the end of July, when we go on holiday, I'll withdraw it, and that's what we're going. That's what we're going away with, if we can go. So that's kind of how it started, and then all of a sudden, like, this was like February time, it just went boom through. It just spiked, and I was like, wow, I really like this crypto stuff. This is good stuff. So I started putting more in, and yeah, I'm watching it, and then just, yeah, really, like, it took over. It basically took over for, like, obviously I was doing my day-to-day stuff, but I was always checking my investments, because yeah, at one point I think I put 60,000 in, and I was up like 100,000. Yeah, so I was up like 40,000 pounds. But yeah, so the way I arranged my portfolio was 50% Bitcoin, 25% large altcoins, like the well-known ones, and then 25% of the smaller ones. So that's kind of how I diverse my portfolio. And yeah, it was working really well. And then obviously Elon Musk and all the other things tweeted, and it just started dipping. And luckily, I set those, like, certain stop gaps to cash out. And yeah, it went from like 40,000 up, and I basically cashed out at around 7,000, which absolutely fantastic, considering I only invested in February. But at the same time, it's like, oh god, I should have recognized that we was in a bubble. So yeah, one thing, like, one of my takings from crypto is that it's so volatile.
Yeah.
There's a lot of market factors. But do I think it's got gain? Do I think it's a fad? No, I do think it's got gain, and it's only going to grow. I think maybe 2 to 3x over the next year, hopefully. That's what the experts say. But then another thing I've found, that everyone is selling crypto. Like, everyone you speak to is like, oh, buy the dip, and oh, have you invested in this coin, isn't it? It's like everyone's like selling it, and like there's no real why. Like, why are you telling me to do that? You know what I mean? And it's everyone, and that was kind of why I should have recognized we was in a bubble at that time, is because everyone and their dog was just saying, oh, you've got to get into it, you've got to get into it. And then, yeah, I think the bubble popped, and now Bitcoin's dropped, and obviously everything follows Bitcoin. So yeah, all the altcoins have now dropped. But yeah, I cashed out at 7, but I think it was about 3 or 4,000 back in, just to play on a certain of smaller altcoins, and yeah, it hasn't gone so well, not
So,
compared to last time.
so sure. I mean, are you continuing to dabble in it as another little source of something or other?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Dabble, like exactly. I'd say dabble. Any like kind of small amount of loose change.
Speculation.
Yeah,
A
exactly.
little bit of speculation, but your bread and butter is property. That's your thing. That's what
Oh,
you're focused on.
100%. Yeah, that's like my North Star. That goal of 50 by 50, that's the North Star. And any like bit of change goes into crypto, and if it does well, great, fantastic. I went a bit mad, obviously putting in like 60k, which at the time I thought was the best thing ever. But luckily, like I said, I put those stop gaps in to make sure that if it dropped to that level, I cash out. And that's another key, I think. Make sure you know your limits and set those things. Just because, you just don't know where the market's going to go.
I think that's really important. I think downside protection is something that investors don't think about on a regular. And we're talking about HMOs and students. In the back of my mind, I'm constantly thinking, okay, what happens if the students don't come back? What am I going to do? Because I can't be carrying cost of utilities, cost of mortgage repayments, etc.,
Yeah.
all on my own back. So am I going to switch to professionals? And if so, what does that look like? Am I going to switch to social housing? What does that look like? Am I going to have to just buy to let it to a family? And what does that look like? So always managing various outcomes and thinking of it well in advance so that you're not surprised a little bit too late. So well done for doing that. And I think that if anybody is thinking about getting into cryptos, it's definitely a sensible approach. Now, before we wrap up, another thing that's quite similar between you and I is that we both became dads actually at a very, very similar time. You mentioned little Sienna, and it was literally, I think, a couple of weeks apart, if that. How has, I mean, we did touch upon it just before the podcast started about workload and delegating, because, well, frankly, it takes up more energy and time than I thought it would do anyway. How has it affected you? How are you enjoying being a dad?
Yeah, so I love being a dad. Don't get me wrong; it's got its challenges, and as I said, like it feels like my days have halved and my workload's doubled because of it. Just because, I used to work crazy hours just to get stuff done, but now I've got a deadline. I've got to be at home by like 5:30 because that's when me and Sienna have our time. I bath her, put her to bed, and it's great, but it's definitely an adjustment that I've had to deal with. And as I said, I've in order to do that and to maintain the progress and the speed that I've been doing stuff, I have to delegate, and that's how you have to scale, especially when you've got a newborn in, because obviously Danielle's brilliant. Like she's like bossing the mum game. She's brilliant. And she gets what I do, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But at the same time, you've got to be there. You've got to work as a team, and you've got you've got to put her first as well. Business is great. This is my baby, but when you've got an actual baby,
They're both babies, and they both need time,
yeah,
attention. They both
that's
need
right.
nurture. They need affection, and you need to be, you need to be on top of both of them, because if you slip,
Yeah.
I think that, to be honest, that's the way I see it. Of course, the real baby is incredibly precious, but a business is equally a baby, and it needs the time and attention. Otherwise, it will crumble. And I think you're at a stage right now where you've got quite a significant level of like foundation, where you're in that position where you can grow as well. So what have you got on the horizon, going forwards? I noticed that you may be doing some form of training or something like that. Is that still an intention of yours?
Yeah, so that's kind of in the background. Obviously, the main focus for me is systems and processes in the property side of things, so I can step out. So I won't start a new project until that's kind of like been taken care of, because that's there's no point taking on another baby if you can't deal with another baby. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things. So yeah, it's been a long time coming. The property apprentice, like kind of like mentorship, where and HMO days. I think a lot of people get a lot of benefit out of that. So that's something that a lot of people have been asking me about. So I thought, you know what, let's do it. So yeah, I've been working very hard with my branding for that. But yes, so for me, I think the focus is mainly on systems and processes, and which we're doing very well at, I must say. And then once I'm comfortable, then take a couple of steps back from where I am now, and then I can start to focus on those other projects.
You are clearly, to me, a property person. You live it, breathe it, you share it with everybody. Internally, to you, what does it take to be a successful property person?
So a successful property person for me, it's just knowing, it's just being an expert across all of it, as much as you can. So I'm like one of the extreme examples where I've bought a house, I've renovated it, I've managed it, I've even I can sell a house as well. So I know the full processes and stages of that. But yeah, I mean, like I class you as a successful person because you know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. Like you allow me to manage your property, which is great. But you got the product to a very high standard, and I think that's the key. You know your audience, you know the location, you know what they want, you know the demands, and that's what you need to do. And then you also need to know that you need a service to accompany that, because you can have the best HMO in the world, but if you've got poor management and crap, then you're going to have a high turnover of students. Maintenance is going to go through the roof. So I'd say, that in terms of being a successful HMO person, those are kind of the things you need to get right, is the product and the service. Once you've got those, you can't go far wrong. And for like buy to let, I guess it's exactly the same thing. You just need to make sure that you get a good product in the good location, and then a good tenant as well.
Craig, you've been full of energy as always and insightful, and I appreciate you coming on. And I'd like to do this with you again sometime, see how all your projects going, how you're getting closer to that 50 number. And if people wanted to reach out to you, Instagram, I'm going to tell you, tell everybody that's the best way. But other than that, what's the best way that people can reach out to you?
Yeah, I'd say the best one is Instagram. TikTok's a bit funny. I don't really check the messages there because I get a lot of hate, as you can imagine. So yeah, I'd say Instagram definitely. And if you're local to Gillingham, and you want a chat about the HMO market, please, give us a call from the office on the website. And but yeah, I'd say Instagram is the main one.
Happy days. Thank you ever so much. Have a great day, and we'll catch up again soon.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sam. Cheers. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in today. We've got lots more super active property people coming up, so keep up to date. Click the subscribe button, hit the bell icon, leave us a comment, share us and find us across social media, and we'll see you next time.